Attack on Titan 2 is a unique experience to say the least. One where you can validate your pathetic self-insert OCs into the series, or do as I did and spend an hour with a friend going through Steam reviews where people state which fictional characters they want to ban. Sorry, gotta stay on track. A.O.T 2 is a strange game. Developed by Omega Force, the game was published in 2018 by Koei Tecmo, a company that doesn't know what the word discount means. Seriously, this game never goes on sale, why Tecmo? The game occupies a small niche in the overall Attack on Titan fanbase. The game was moderately successful, selling several 100,000 copies from what I can tell, but it's fairly obscure in the community. It pops up on the odd occasion but almost never in detail, which I find to be a shame. You don't really see many full reviews of the game's content. I think this game has a lot of great substance, not just from its satisfyingly addictive combat system, but an extension and exploration of Attack on Titan's world building, including a relatively expansive social life system that juxtaposes the ongoing battles you yourself participate in with your own story being crafted. Now if you were to ask, Frey, why aren't you covering the first game, A.O.T Wings of Freedom? Well, it's because the first half of A.O.T 2 is just a hard remake of Wings of Freedom. There is no point in playing the objectively inferior game that has nothing to add compared to A.O.T 2, and still being sold at full price. Additionally, and more importantly, I will not be analysing the final battle DLC since it deviates from the game's original formula, and I don't want to make this video longer than it already is. And on a final note, for the singular person who may be wondering if I will play Humanity in Chains for the 3DS, no. Unfortunately, I cannot articulate the words to describe how beautiful that game is. A.O.T 2 begins, ironically, in media res, surveying the people of the Stohess district. We follow our fellow soldier down, checking our gear and getting a good look at our lovely character-defining green hood. But then... No shit, Armin. The rest of the mission involves a chase sequence against the female Titan, mostly to familiarize us with the ODM gear that the combat is based on. I'll discuss it more on in a little bit, but I will say that the movement system feels incredibly smooth. Swinging through the air doesn't feel clunky at all. I think Omega Force really nailed it here. Anyway, most of the mission consists of following around the female Titan as it gets caught in our traps and we take a few lucky swings at her, or be like me still trying to figure out the controls. This cat and mouse game does eventually come to an end as our attention is taken elsewhere. And here is where we get a bit of narration on our character. As you can already ascertain, we don't play as any named character, instead as the nameless hero, a character exclusive to A.O.T 2, one who has had their tales retold by our mysterious narrator. We get to see the backstory of our hooded figure, being a resident of Shinganshina who got to experience a small historic event of the fall of Walmaria. Thankfully we got our parents to get us to safety. I swear to God, why does almost every single character have to be an orphan? Can one of us have living parents? Oh right, Jean. Our backstory is pretty cut and dry, setting us up as the parallel to Eren, whom we do over here on the evacuation boat. Like him, we lost our parents to the fall of Walmaria, but our vendetta is against the Armored Titan in particular. I like that we get our own motivation for why we end up joining the Scouts, though it doesn't really follow through throughout the game, and I'll talk about that later on. 2 years later, we enlist in the 104th Cadets, and get to put a face and name to our character, and now we can move on to the tutorial on ODM gear, thing that allows us to fly through the air. The ability to use ODM gear hinges on there being something elevated for us to hook onto. If there's no such thing around, then we can't use the ODM gear, represented by this icon. Further along, we get to the combat section of this mission. It's fairly straightforward. Slice the nape of the Titan to kill it, and for bigger ones, attack their body parts to weaken them. Then we have a little competition to see who can get the most points. I of course win, because I am the protagonist of the story here, not you, Eren. My long tangent is cut short unfortunately as my ODM gear decides to take the day off. Thankfully, Reiner and Birth Control are here to save me. These two are such swell guys. I'm glad to call them my comrades.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
Moving on from that near-death experience, get to explore the barracks, basically our hub of the game. We get to explore, interact with our fellow soldiers, and build our friendships with them. Most of our time outside of battle is primarily spent on growing our relationships. This time is known as daily life, essentially everything outside of actually battling. With the end of each mission, specific characters present will have their progress bar grow, allowing us to move on to the next rank, with 10 being the max. We can also increase the bar by saying the right things at the right time during conversation and aiding them in their side missions. Each rank works like the social system does does in Persona, with each level up constituting its own cutscene where you accompany the character with whatever troubles they are having. I'll have more to say about it in its own section since it has little bearing on the overall story so far. Next we are directed to the Regimental store where we get to this game's RPG style crafting. With the right obtainable materials you can craft and upgrade your weapons. You can even craft these frankly ridiculous items that I don't really like. They break the immersion of the game and I don't like the feel of them, so I always stick with the original gear when possible. Throughout the game we'll be constantly grinding up and improving our gear as the difficulty gradually rises up as well. A few minor things happen before the next mission. Mina and Thomas get chewed out by Keith, Hannes introduces himself to us, and we have a nice chat with Eren, Armin, Reiner, and Bathwater about our plans for the future. To circle back to Hannes, the reason he spoke with us is because we had dropped our journal, something that serves as an integral part of our character. It's one of the more explicit traits of our friend, rather than the more blank state that the player assumes. Naturally, the nameless hero exists as a stand-in for us to players, to project ourselves into this world, so of course they're not going to have much in the way of an identifiable personality, but little inclusions like this do help add a touch of uniqueness to the character. Evidently, our character likes to write down their experiences and thoughts, and this does set up the foundation of the narrative, as our writings are what are used to retell the story. The journal and our friend are mutually inclusive. The journal also acts as a source of information for us, showing us scout logs, our current friendships, our stats, previous cutscenes, detailed entries on the people and things of the world. The logs in particular let us peer into the thoughts of our friend, letting us get a good look into how they feel about any given event. In one log they see their determination in not letting Trost be a repeat of their home's destruction, and another shows that they really want to impress Hanji with their skills. It's a nice touch of characterization. What is equally as interesting is the public information section of the journal. It's a shining gem of A.O.T's world building. It does more than just give descriptions of characters and whatnot, but we also learn things like the specifics of scout horses, how ODM gear works, and even the way currency is produced in the walls. It's one of my favorite parts of the game. Instead of just generic info dumps that just rehash what the game and show tell us, we get more insight into the way things work in the walls. Moving on, the next tutorial mission is all about another important feature: teamwork. In battle we don't just fight by ourselves. I know, shocking. We can enlist our allies to fight alongside us and we get access to their abilities. There are several of them that are available in the main story: Flash, Battle Signal, Single Strike, Coordinated Strike, Health Restore, and Capture. Flash is pretty self-explanatory. The character produces a bright flash that blinds titans next to it, stopping their attacks and movements for a small moment to allow you to run away or to get an easier kill. I always use Flash in tight situations where I need to replace my gas or blades while mid-fight. Battle Signal and Health Restore are the only two which function as some of your usable items. Battle Signal causes blue mist to swirl around you, giving you temporary increased movement speed, along with halting all blade damage and gas consumption. It is extremely useful and arguably the best ability in the game, pretty much never needing to worry about your supplies with it equipped. The same can't really be said about Health Restore though. Now on the surface, Health Restore seems really neat. Your teammates can heal you and it has such a short cooldown, but the caveat to that is that your teammate has to physically interact with you to heal, which won't happen unless you completely stop moving and wait for them, making it practically useless in a fight and only viable afterwards, and only if you don't want to use up one of your own. A solid 3 out of 10 really. Next is the Single Strike. As the name suggests, the character in question will perform a single hit on a titan's body part that you direct them to. It's really good for taking down that last level of health on a titan's nape or a body part, and makes the fight feel more like a team effort. If you want to get a bit of sadistic joy from a titan, you can have each teammate destroy one limb each before you put it out of its misery. For the next one, Coordinated Strike is essentially a more powerful Single Strike. This time the ally initiates a really cool cutscene where you two go to town on a titan. It's powerful but comes at the cost of having a relatively long cooldown. The final one, Capture, is arguably the most effective in the game. You and your ally line up and fire a massive net over a titan, instantly capturing without fail. Aside from a few titans, it works on pretty much all of them, regardless of size or damage inflicted. Feral, cruel, and titan in your way? Capture. Too many titans to deal with? Capture. Hanji. Capture. Such an overpowered ability and is one of my favorites. This tutorial also introduces us to base building, where at selected points we can build structures for a specific purpose. Right now the only one we can make is a supply base that just refills our items. Base building will become a vital part of the gameplay moving forward. Without supply bases in particular, we'd run out of gas and blades and wouldn't be able to fight, so having at least one on the battlefield will be necessary going forward. Anyway, the training goes super well and we outperform everyone else because we were the only team not bickering about something. From all this training we get a good grasp of the ODM movement. In my humble opinion, it's honestly perfect. You never once feel like you aren't in control, and you have full freedom to move however you want, with quite smooth animations to go with it. Hooking, retracting, changing direction, it all works so seamlessly. I think it's partly why this game can be so addicting. ODM is ridiculously fun to play with, especially on some of the later environments. In my opinion, A.O.T 2 wins handily in having the best movement system I have ever seen in a game. It is just that good. After 3 long years, we finally get to graduation, the top 10 graduates, the best of the entire cadets, and wait, we don't make it into the top 10? I literally won all the competitions and was the only one who had a functioning team. I did all the work. Why aren't I up there? It's fine, whatever. Don't need some stupid top 10 reward anyway. At least we have some nice downtime in the Trost district. I can use this peaceful time to cool my head a bit and I just had to say something. Trost's gate has been breached, and we try to stop the Titans from pouring in, but unfortunately we aren't prepared for this. Eren tries to take out the Colossal Titan, but, like saving his mother, he doesn't quite succeed. This is now the battle for Trost. We are formed into the middle guard and are sent out. A few Titan kills in and we see a green smoke streak through the sky. This is our introduction to side missions. Characters will request support during battle. Most of the time it involves killing Titans in the area or escorting them. Once completed, they either build a high level base or will join your team as an ally. Doing them is essential for getting more construction signals to build bases. In my opinion, they're pretty well integrated into the game. They feel prominent enough to take up mission time, but not so overwhelmed that it bogs down the progress. Though the game has an issue of actually registering you completed the mission sometimes, especially if you eliminate the Titans before the prompt shows up, which often became frustrating for me as I'm quickly juggling between side missions and the main objective. But something more pressing happens. A strange Titan appears, known as a large abnormal. They are effectively mini-bosses. You can't just attack their names outright like normal Titans. Instead, you have to whittle down their stamina by attacking the limbs glowing green before they can take proper damage. However, their stamina bar slowly recharges and you need to repeat the process. Now, this is meant to be a back and forth fight between draining the abnormal stamina and chipping away at its health. However, I played this game for so long back in the day that I found a cheap trick to avoid this. Once you drain its stamina bar, just back off and do a sneak attack. The Titan takes the full damage, but the stamina bar also resets, so you only need to bring them down once. This is actually a good time to mention what a sneak attack actually is. If you stand behind a Titan, you can use a monocular to take aim and perform a long range strike. You have to hit the Titan at just the right moment to succeed. Doing so nets you a huge amount of damage to the Titan. If you are too slow or too quick to strike, your attack will fail. If you take too long to initiate your attack, however, the Titan will become enraged, a state all Titans can enter if you stay in their vision for too long. Everything around you comes to a halt, and the Titan becomes more aggressive and harder to fight. It adds a lot of tension to fights and otherwise works super well. Now, while enraging is meant to make fights harder, they actually can help make fights easier in a niche way. If you're struggling to fight off so many Titans at once, purposely enraging one can be beneficial, since now you only have to deal with that single Titan and not the others all at once. Soon, however, the situation becomes more dire. An abnormal leaps up and gives Thomas no chance to save himself. Pig Girl herself is cornered as the Titan approaches her. These characters that we were growing a bond with and getting to understand are killed horribly just like that. Again, this is a cruel and merciless world, a repeating theme in the series. Armor nearly suffers the same fate as them until Eren saves him, at the cost of his own life. We meet up with him after and it is clear we're all feeling the hopelessness of the battle. All we can do now is to continue to defend the HQ and help the civilians evacuate out of Trost. Mikasa pushes on despite the loss of Eren, and we ultimately must as well. Though even her spirit is eventually broken, she sits idly as two Titans appear, awaiting her fate, but then she remembers Eren's words.
ほら、早く帰ろうぜ。俺たちの家に。
死んでしまったらもう、あなたを思い出すことさえできない。
Back at Garrison HQ, situation status, we're all going to die. If only we had some sort of weapon to kill all these Titans with. Me and my big... Oh wait, actually, this works. Yeah, I'm not complaining. The appearance of the strange Titan fighting other Titans gives us a chance to resupply and escape. I say chance because it did become quite irritating when the Titan I was fighting would get engaged and I had to keep moving again and again to get a clear shot. Though it did make the battle more chaotic, so it wasn't so awful really. Unfortunately, our miracle savior ends up exhausting itself and crashing to the ground. Oh well, I guess that's the end of things. Until a very much not dead Eren pops out of it. What? The main character of the series is alive? Who could have guessed? Yeah, it turns out Eren can turn into a Titan. Now that I think about it, Eren could actually be the key to taking back Trost. We could use him to our advantage. Thankfully, Commander Pixis is the only person in the Garrison Regiment who has a spine, and so the plan is devised. Eren in his Titan form will carry the large boulder to the gate and plug the hole in the wall. Our role is to protect Eren, even if it comes at the cost of our own lives. And so we deploy. Something this game does really well is emulating the environments of the show. Throughout our time in Trost, we've seen how the scenery has changed, from the clear blue skies before the destruction, to the melancholy grey as our resistance appears futile, to then the bright orange with the hope of victory surrounded by rising plumes of smoke. A.O.T 2 succeeds perfectly in not only replicating the imagery of the show, but in its color symbolism that helps set the ever-changing moods of every mission. As long as Eren succeeds in this part and... We start losing all hope. All we can do is defend Eren and pray he gets up. Nico fires a red smoke signal, announcing the mission has been lost.
後頭部からうなじにかけて縦1メートル横10センチ大丈夫真ん中さえ良ければ死にはしないただほんのちょっと痛いだけだアルミ
Eren is back on his feet. We desperately slay every titan in his way, expending everything we have for him to move on just an inch further. Every moment another comrade falls, and others we can't reach in time with so many titans overwhelming us. Everyone killed brings another and another. There is no time to stop and change gas. We are put to our absolute limit, until finally... Trost has been won. The first victory for humanity in 100 years. Our celebration is cut short though as a titan tries to grab us. Thankfully, we are saved by the short king, Levi Ackerman of the Scout Regiment, whom we help with his Levi squad to clean up the remaining titans in Trost. We then scale up the wall and get to meet Hanji, the ecstatic scientist, who we'll see surely gets a little bit too infatuated with titans, and Erwin Smith, the commander of the entire Scouts Regiment, the man who can make a bunch of teenagers suicide charge to their death with a decently motivating speech. Trost is, in my opinion, the best part of the game. Not to say the other arcs present are terrible or lackluster, but what elevates Trost to me is that it captures those feelings of excitement of the early season 1 of A.O.T. It's a tense campaign that, to us at the time, seemed like it would be the last stance of humanity against the Titans. It might just be the nostalgia talking, but if there's one arc to me that is the pinnacle of early A.O.T, it is Trost. Though something infinitely more pressing is going on, as Eren is currently in the middle of a military tribunal to decide his fate, with the military police wanting him to straight up be executed, because the biggest obstacle to our continued survival isn't the Titans, but rather other people.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights? The Constitution says you do, and so do I. I believe that until proven guilty, every man, woman, and child in this country is innocent. And that's why I fight for you, Albuquerque!
It almost appears that the military police will succeed until Levi decides to partake in his favourite hobby of beating up teenagers to a pulp. And somehow it works, proving to the court that Eren can be kept on a leash. So Zachary, the premier of all the regiments, allows for the Scout Regiment to take custody of Eren. And Hanji takes me along because of manpower issues. But hey, I'm not complaining. Though I am quite drained from all that intense fighting. Oh look, Annie is up for some training. After my brief stay in the infirmary, where I learned I could wield literal cleaning dusters as weapons, seriously, why are these sharper than my swords? We head back to the Trost district where the local life expectancy has gone up from being a rotten carcass to having most of your appendages still attached. Hanji decides to take us outside the walls beyond Trost to clear the remaining titans in the area, giving us access to our very own horses. They're useful for traversing areas around the map that don't allow for ODM gear. Like equipment, you can also buy better breeds of horses as the game goes on, giving them more speed and stamina. With me being unofficially welcomed into the Scout Regiment, I decide to treat myself to a new shirt with a turtleneck, which I think looks good with the grey vest. This is also where we are taught about Wings of Freedom, or Wings for short. On brand, I know. Essentially, they are reputation currency. Our progress in missions and such will provide us with more wings. You can spend these points on implementing policies within the Scout Regiments that will boost certain stats and abilities for a time. For instance, selecting intensive equipment inspection will reduce how fast you deplete your blades and gas. It doesn't have much bearing on the gameplay itself. I hardly notice the effects, if at all, and at a point it gets a bit irritating when you just spend a minute spamming the policies to spend your excess wings. It's a nice feature, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really add much. What is a much bigger feature, however, is scouting. Juxtaposing the main story missions are scout missions, the side missions of the game, and oh boy, do I have a lot of words to say about them. The general layer of scouting missions involves a mini campaign where we do 2 to 3 missions in differing environments. They function like regular story missions in that there is a general main objective along with side objectives to help allies with. Like with other missions, your rewards consist of regimental funds and materials you directly and indirectly collect. On to the positives first. A great thing about the scouting missions is that you can actually invite characters to join you. Simply go up to them, invite them, and the next scout mission you go on, they will be there alongside you. It's perfect for wanting a specific ally ability with you instead of relying on the randomized side missions, and you get to use them from the very start of the mission. Additionally, it adds a boost to your friendship with them, so it's really useful for helping your progress with them. Aside from the friendship boost, side missions also offer the chance to obtain more materials than you could from regular missions, especially with how freely you can set up mining bases. It's a good way to grind outside of the main story. In fact, it's practically necessary for upgrading your gear later into the game. Scouting missions also give you access to special abilities not available in the main missions, but I'll have to discuss that later. And now to the downsides. While I am a big fan of the chance to kill more titans and spend more hours on this game, it wouldn't be honest for me if I didn't showcase the downsides I've seen the general community have. The biggest issue off the bat is just how repetitive these missions are. Their layout is pretty much just kill titans, do side objectives of killing more titans, and then kill the large abnormal. This is how it plays out for the dozens and dozens of scouting missions. Sure, there is some minor variation, you might get an escort side mission, or you get a more deadlier boss, but it's pretty much the same overall. Now I understand that there is a need to reuse the same structure of side missions as they are not the priority of development and are completely optional for the players. But after a while they feel like a slog meant to pad the runtime. Sure, it's meant to be the grinding portion of the game, so naturally it's less enjoyable than the main content, but I still feel like it's a bit lackluster. Though I don't want it to appear that I hate scouting missions, quite the opposite in fact. Again, I like any chance to keep playing this game for longer, and killing titans is always fun. It's really awesome to see more of A.O.T's world outside of the main story. We get to witness more of the other moments of the ongoing war. It is a good reminder that this conflict rages across far more than what the main characters are present for, and I think A.O.T 2 does a good job emphasizing that. Granted though, some of these missions don't make the most of sense logically speaking, but that is besides the point. But anyhow, we get back to our daily life to get through another tutorial. I'll keep this one short since I've been rambling for too long. We get access to a gift system. From various merchants we can buy a diverse range of gifts. Gifts that can be given to allies to add another way of increasing the friendship stat. Each character has certain gifts they like more than others, determining how much friendship they grow. For instance, Levi is a big fan of tea, so giving him black tea will give him lots of progress. Or Gerudo and cheap alcohol, but giving someone like Sasha stale bread doesn't give much, which doesn't make much sense since Sasha loves bread so much. Anyway, Hanji summons us and asks us to help her in a mission to capture live titans, something that's never been done before. Erwin begrudgingly allows us to tag along and we are off. Everyone else involved absolutely dreads it except for Hanji, who is concerningly ecstatic about it.
だんだん捕獲できそうな子を絞れてきたよ。
We get taught that capturing a titan requires us to cut off their legs and then restrain them with a net. Titans without targetable limbs can just be captured instantly without effort. Our on-the-job training of 20 whole seconds allows us to capture a 5 meter and a 7 meter as well. And now we get to present the list of all the titans that we captured in this mission. You'll get this every time we capture a titan, and capturing titans grants a few rewards, namely in special materials adding to our mission rewards. We also unlock the bomb base, the ingenious thought of what if we make titans explode? Titans are also attracted to it, so with the right time you can get a devastating multi-kill. In the absence of killing titans, we get to study them at our research room. You get a catalogue of all the different titans you can capture in the game. It's a long list and definitely a fun task to complete. You also get the chance to play as these titans, going around and destroying structures for points. Additionally, you get to chase and consume aristocrats? Wow, didn't know this game was all about eating the rich. Maybe the turns are actually a metaphor for the bourgeois besieging the lower classes and keep. But it's time now to prepare for the 57th expedition, the next expedition beyond the walls. Our first mission is to build a base to establish supply lines. Need to place a bunch of bases around the abandoned town. This is one of the things I think makes the unique character work really well for an A.O.T game, is that we get to experience events outside of what the main characters are doing. One thing you don't get much in the show is the logistics behind the scouts and their missions. Venturing outside the walls requires supply lines to keep scouts and their horses fed and supplied. After all, their gas canisters aren't infinite. It's a nice addition to world building and gives a unique operation that we serve away from the main cast. The end of this mission gives us a unique equipment feature known as reinforcing. Essentially, we can take 3 bits of appropriate equipment to buff the stats of 1. It only boosts them a slight bit, so it's not really a big part of the playthrough, but still a nice little thing if you want to make your weapons a bit stronger or have a bit more durability. But tragedy has struck. Oh right, those were the names. So it appears someone has killed Sona and baked beans and snuck away. Erwin butts in and gives me a weird sense of deja vu. And then Eren decides to tell the girl who can beat all of our asses that she is pretty kind. Good on you, little guy. Shoot your shot. But now we have to help Hanji get over her trauma and decide to do some titan shifting experiments with Eren under the supervision of the Levi squad. It doesn't go too well as Eren fails to transform. Don't worry, man. A lot of guys have issues getting it to work. You aren't alone. Here you go. I got some pills that can help you. Now the entire Levi squad is ready to execute Eren. They weren't joking when they said they would kill him if necessary, but a more pressing concern is the approaching titans. Our mission now is to protect Eren while he fails to pull out. Man, I'm really stretching out this bit, aren't I? Now, if you're asking, why the hell are there titans here? It's because Hanji decided to do our experiment outside the wall to see if a life-threatening situation would cause Eren to transform, because that sounds so sensible. Hanji, I'm gonna be honest, can you hold it for a minute? I am fighting for my dear life here. All the while, Eren finally breaks free in the most Looney Tunes way possible. After watching someone literally die, does Eren finally decide to transform? It seems it only works if there's an increase in the casualty rate. So after a short outburst, we are able to eliminate all the titans and get some nice reconciliation between Eren and the Levi squad as they all bite down on their hands in solidarity. Very sweet. Until we remember several scouts died from our experiment that didn't really go too well, but oh, sorry guys, I won't spoil you a little moment. Oh hey look, a new base type, better go check that out. Frontline base is one of the few things that impact the player themselves. These ones boost your stats when nearby, making it a useful nudge in a difficult fight. And we will need it as we begin our official recruitment into the Scouts. Erwin Smith comes to personally persuade us cadets to join the regiment, telling us of the hope of Eren's home basement. However, he makes one thing brutally clear. Most of us will likely die within our service, citing the 30% expedition casualty rate. Those who don't wish to join are free to leave, and most take up that offer. Only a small handful of us decide to stay. Remember, out of the thousands of soldiers within the walls, the Scouts only make up a fraction of their numbers. As Hanji stated earlier, we struggle with manpower. Most recruits don't want to join the most perilous unit where we venture into the unknown against the Titans. Understandably, they prefer to enjoy the safety of the garrison or military police. I think this game does a pretty good job of highlighting how difficult we as the Scouts are in our position, trying to free humanity from the clutches of the time while given as few resources as possible. After the ceremony, we meet back up with Eren and Armin and Mikasa tag along. She in particular seems really determined to know what Hanji did to him, physically. Seems a tad extreme until we remember that this is Mikasa we're talking about.
Eren.
And all of Eren's friends appear, having joined the Scouts in support of him. It's a very wholesome moment. I'm sure that feeling will last. We move on to the next stage of preparing for the 57th Scout Expedition, being drilled on the long-distance enemy scouting formation. Wow, that's a mouthful. It's Commander Eren's own genius invention, a formation where each squad is kept away from each other to watch for any Titans. When a Titan is spotted, flares are used to notify the rest of the formation to change direction, avoiding the Titans altogether, and ultimately preserving their lives and keeping casualties to a minimum. We stand in the Kalanef district, ready to depart into Titan territory. Our hopes are high for this operation. The music gives us bright optimism, our next step in reclaiming Walmaria.
第57回壁外調査を開始する。進め！
Okay, I apologize for my voice being worse than usual. I am very ill at the moment. Please contend with it. Our first task is clearing out the abandoned town for the advancing squads to pass through. This is the aforementioned benefit of having an original character over a pre-existing character. You get to be put in unique situations that weren't present in the show. Is that?
Butter dog. The dog with the butter.
Yeah, this dog is just here if you want to go back to your daily life doing a multi-mission arc. Pretty neat if you want to do a bit more grinding halfway through the game.
壁外調査ってのはな、いかに巨人と戦わないかにかかってんだよ。
We branch off from the rest of the regiment and advance with our own squad, eliminating the Titans in our way. Strange, there seems to be a lot more Titans than expected. They should have been spotted ahead of time by the Scouts. Nanaba and Gerudo also noticed this, but we have no choice but to try and reduce their numbers, which ends up with us helping Reiner and Jean as they struggle to get through it all. Oh look, there's Armin. A mystery Titan appears, having weirdly spared Armin. We pick him back up and begin to chase this new threat. It's clear this isn't some abnormal, it's another shifter, just like Eren. That is what we can observe, just like how Reiner observes its skinless behind. While Reiner thinks it's with his gas canister, you know which one I'm talking about, Armin rubs two of his neurons together and correlates this horde of Titans to the mystery Titan that we just saw. He then realized she must have been there, that day 5 years ago. She must have lured all those Titans in. That bombshell is quickly overshadowed by the realization she must have also been searching for Eren. But all our maps label him in different parts of the formation. Seems Erwin didn't trust us to know where he is, and honestly, yeah, I can see why. We have to stop this thing before it reaches our superiors. Here we get our first proper boss battle of the game, and this is where the combat truly shines. Now the regular combat is all fine and dandy, but the Titans don't pose too much of a challenge. They're pretty static and easy to dodge their attacks. They're mainly an obstacle of sorts. This boss is more like actively trying to murder you. She is a dozen times more aggressive than the abnormals we've been dealing with up to this point. Her hits pack a punch with little warning before you are put on the verge of death, with a huge radius to her attacks that make dodging them a challenge. To add to it, her scream pushes us back, forcing us to both keep our distance and try to hit her weak spots at the same time. It is a difficult and engaging fight, really forcing you to push all your skills of ODM to the limit. This bot and those we've yet to see are one of the best parts of the game. We successfully stop this mystery Titan in her tracks, but fall short of taking her down. Armin bites the curb for the second time, and Jean sees all this and thinks he has a chance. Only with some quick think from Armin is he able to strangely get the mysterious Titan to freeze up, allowing Jean to disengage. But Reiner apparently didn't get the memo and charges at her with the expected results. Reiner miraculously survives and we are able to get away. The female pauses for a moment before heading off in a random direction. We try and chase after her, but unfortunately only my horse has returned. Don't know what happened to the other one. We're stumped on what to do. I suggest going in alone in order to warn the rest of the scouts before it's too late. They all protest my suggestion, but then it dawns on me. I don't care about any of their opinions. I ride off to the forest of giant trees in search of the Levi squad, with Krista joining up with me. Now, I know canonically she did already meet up with my group and got them their horses, but I think it's a really funny mental image that she just left them there with nothing. We begin to intervene and ask other soldiers where the Levi squad is, to no avail until we find Petra, who leads us to them. Yeah, no need to rush, guys. Don't want to be too alarmed, you know. Eventually, they decide to get a move on and retreat into the forest of giant trees, named as such because it has get this, giant trees. Eren debates on using his titan to defend himself, but Levi tells him that he's free to do so. But if he does, then that means he does not trust them as his comrades. With the female titan inching closer, Eren ultimately decides to trust his team. With the female titan restrained, we are able to secure the outskirts of the forest. Upon meeting with Armin and Jean, they know the oddities in Owen's plan, how we seem to almost know something like this would happen. Jean floats around the idea of a spy, which is totally ludicrous.
Sometimes,
But those thoughts are put to the side as a horde of titans starts to charge towards the forest. I of course slay them without issue because I am the main character. Rude. Mike then informs us that titans are coming for all directions. Levi casually kills 2 of them, but more and more appear and start eating away at the female. With no chance to escape, she opted to be eaten rather than taken alive. Our only hope is to salvage whatever is left of her by killing as many titans as possible before she is devoured. Now, because this is me we're talking about, I do in fact clear all the titans. Try escaping now, you giant bitch. But alas, like with the top 10 graduates, the plot moves on regardless of my contributions. So we are too overwhelmed despite our best efforts. Owen calls for a retreat back to Kalanef, signaling the end of the expedition. Unfortunately, the female escapes our grasp. Before we leave, however, Owen instructs Levi to replenish his gas and blades, which I'm sure means absolutely nothing.
Levi 兵長いや違う誰だ
Gunther has met his unceremonious end at the hands of this hooded figure. The remainder of the Levi squad and myself pack around Eren to provide cover. With a bright flash, they transform back into the female titan. The Levi squad stands their ground as I am instructed to escort Eren to safety. Eren wants to stay and fight, but he is again reminded to trust his team. All that's up to me is to eliminate the remaining titans in the forest. Everything seems to go pretty well. The Levi squad is absolutely crushing the female. All they need to do now is to get the final hit in and... well, all I need to do now is to get the final hit in. Me and Eren are all that's left to finish the female. Eren gets a few good hits in, but unfortunately catches a bad case of being decapitated. All I can do is helplessly watch as Eren is snatched away, with Mikasa in pursuit. The cooler cousin, Levi, gets me back up and we pursue the female before she can escape. We are able to subdue her again, pinning her against a tree. Mikasa, however, rushes in without thought. Before a repeat of what happened before can happen, Levi pushes her out of the way. Levi is thankfully able to recover and rescues Eren, and with a quick family scolding moment, we are able to get away to safety. Unfortunately, we don't get much of a breather as the remaining scouts return to Kalanef. The massive loss of life combined with the lack of results leads to us losing all our initial support. Eren is to be handed over to the military police, who will likely have him executed. Everything appears lost, but Owen has one last plan up his sleeve. I'm kidding. His actual plan is to use Eren's transfer to lure in the female titan and capture her once and for all in the Stowheads district. As you can tell, we've already identified a suspect. They are not only a member of the military police, but also were a part of the 104th Cadets. It's Annie? Yeah, who am I kidding? The series was not subtle. Wow, I wonder who this blonde, short-haired titan with martial arts skills could be. Gotta be Daz. Moving on, my role in this plan is to be on standby in case anything happens. Something's gonna happen, isn't it? This whole setup takes us back to the very first mission of the game, but this time from the original perspective of the main trio. Armin uses his very present charm to get Annie to agree to our plan to sneak Eren out of Stowheads. Right as they venture into the underground tunnel, however, Annie stops.
I knew there was something wrong with you. The secrets, the sneaking around. Now it all makes sense.
With her signature disturbing laughter, the other scouts try and restrain her, but we all know how this story goes. And we return to where our story began, with us chasing after Annie, the female titan. The beginning mostly follows the same, with us chasing after the female, trying to slow her down and get some decent hits in. In the church square, we are able to halt her, but only for a brief moment as she begins running again. We get the same cutscene as before of her being trapped, but it's kind of funny seeing her animations play without her arms. She does, however, break free and we continue to pursue her, up until a bright yellow flash from the distance signals Eren's entrance. Having cornered Annie, we now get our third, or fourth at this point, proper fight with her. At this point, you might be inclined to say it's getting repetitive, but that's like saying to the waiter that your steak is too juicy easy. It's a good fight, what can I say? The boss battles in this game are long enough to keep you engaged, but not terribly long, so you aren't overwhelmed with them. This time we do successfully take down Annie. With nowhere else to run, out of desperation she tries climbing over the wall to escape. Unfortunately for her, Mikasa comes in and politely disagrees with that approach. Eren spares no time in absolutely tearing away at her, exposing her teary face. Before we can do anything, Annie begins to crystallize and seal herself away. This marks the end of the female Titan arc and season 1 as a whole. With the dust settled, we may finally have a chance to catch a breather and... Well, would you look at that? As we take in the sight of the Titan in the wall, Pastor Nick comes up to us to share his wisdom. Pastor Nick said calmly. Hanji takes him up to the top of the wall, demanding answers. Why is there a Titan in the wall? Are all the walls made up of Titans? Why has he been silent about it? Is Hanji free this Saturday? But Nick keeps quiet, even after Hanji threatens to kill him. Hanji simply reflects on the excitement of this discovery, very in line with her character. But Owen has a new mission for me, to check up on the other members of the 104th and inform them what happened here in Stoes. Just to clarify, the notable absence of the other characters is because they were purposely kept isolated in case there were other spies within the Corps, which is the setup to Season 2. To interject for a moment, we get 2 new features with this conclusion. Firstly, we can now construct garrison bases. These periodically give construction signals during battle, intending to let you build more structures without needing to complete more side objectives. To be brutally honest, I never actually use it. There weren't many points in the game where I was desperate enough or spending long enough in a mission to really require a garrison base. That's not to call them useless, they are far from it. You get 1 construction signal per minute, so sacrificing a huge chunk of your available signals for garrison bases can get you a ton of them in a relatively short amount of time, so it's definitely worth it. Now the other feature is a lot more interesting. We get our final, buddy action. Have you ever thought your physique is a bit lacking? You feel you just aren't tall enough? Well, you're in luck with Titan Transformation. With this ability, you can take control of a shifter's time for a brief period of time. You can punch, grab, and throw Titans, who are helpless to stop you from sending them back to the paths. Each hit will fill up a bar known as Rage, which lets you do a special attack that deals extra damage and has more range. Your time on the Titan is however very limited, so you don't have the chance to really roam the map to slaughter any Titan you see. It's best used for when there's a bunch of Titans grouped up together to maximize your damage. Now on to the next part of the wait a minute, let me check my script real quick. Oh no. Have I seriously not talked about skills yet? How did I forget to include one of the most important parts of the game? I'm 30 minutes into this for crying out loud. Okay, I can salvage this, So you want to learn skills. One of the most integral parts of your character is their skill set. Your character can take on numerous skills that provide their own benefits, mainly revolving around your 6 stats. They include strength, dexterity, concentration, agility, health, and leadership. Now these may be big words with more than 1 syllable in them, but what they do can be boiled down for simplicity. Strength is related to how much damage you do to a Titan. Agility is tied to your overall speed and how fluidly you move. Health decides how many hits you can take before dying, and how fast your healing is. Leadership concerns buddy actions, such as how long their cooldown is and how much damage they deal. Concentration is essentially a critical damage multiplier. And dexterity concerns items, most importantly how fast your gas and blades last, but also how long items last like battle signals and their damage like with molotovs. With some skills you can increase these stats by varying amounts, and some provide their own specific benefits, like decreasing gas consumption, increasing the number of items you can bring to battle, or let you perform special animations. However, you can't equip these things as freely as you might want. The limitation to your skills is your skill points, or SP for short. Each skill costs a varying amount of it, so you can only have a certain amount active at any given time, pretty much acting as a ceiling of sorts. Your available SP will increase as you level up though. The skill system is quite good in this game. It allows you to mix and match a variety of builds to suit your own playstyle. You can have one that prioritizes speed, or another that maximizes damage output. Overall, it's a great system that allows you more freedom in how you wish to play the game.
Meanwhile,
the rest of the scouts are enjoying their lovely vacation within Wool Rose, with Mike and Nanaba watching over them. Sasha and Connie, bored out of their minds, talk about how their villages are nearby, but the chatter is cut short as Sasha begins to hear distant footsteps, and Nanaba comes in to alert everyone of approaching Titans. Since those present don't have any equipment, for obvious reasons, they are tasked with evacuating the surrounding towns. For once, Mike isn't sniffing everything and reminds Nanaba that I'm sure that sentiment has no other meanings. With me as an extra hand, the group is divided into their respective squads. Sasha and Connie are given permission to visit their respective villages while the rest of us focus on broader evacuations. For this mission, my objective is to lead the cadets to safety while avoiding and eliminating the present Titans. Once that is done, I return to Mike to get rid of some stragglers before he orders me to go ahead without him. I'm sure he'll be fine. What's the worst that could happen? I'm certain Mike is holding himself together. I follow after Sasha, who comes to find her hometown of Dalpo abandoned, except for a little girl idly sitting outside of her home. She tries to get her horse ready, but it runs off when she panics, because it makes a lot of sense that the horses that don't flinch to Titan attacks would run away from the panicking lady. An emerging Titan puts the two in danger, but Sasha quickly composes herself and gets the girl to run to safety while she bravely stands her ground. I'm back to escorting, this time getting the little girl and Sasha to safety by eliminating the Titans in their way and helping other civilians I come across. Daz also shows up and for once shows signs of maybe having a pair. Once we get across the bridge, we encounter a large abnormal that I make quick work of. But fun fact, for whatever reason, this mission has a unique cutscene for when you fail, where the little girl is snatched by a Titan. I don't know why this is here. There aren't many other missions I can find in the game that have special fail cutscenes, like if you don't defend the female in the forest. It just seems so random. But moving on, we successfully get Sasha and the child away from danger. Sasha says she'll pay me back for it, to which I quickly suggest some meat. Come on, woman. I know you got some tucked in that vest of yours. Hand it over. We then get rudely interrupted by these garrison soldiers, who instruct me to join up with the eastern line to defend it against incoming Titans. We join up with Kits and Rico, the only competent member of the garrison. We meet up with Harness and slay a great number of Titans while maintaining the eastern line's perimeter. With the death of a few abnormals, we managed to keep the defenses standing. Speaking with Harness and Rico, it's made clear we haven't discovered a breach in the walls, despite the obvious existence of Titans within wall rows. I suggest there might not even be a breach at all, but ultimately we have no idea. While all of this is going on, Connie returns to his village, finding it abandoned like Dalpa. He does find his home destroyed, with an immobile Titan laying in the debris. Equally as strange as the lack of any bodies. But if the villagers fled, then why are all the horses still in their stables? There is no clear answer as the group is forced to move onwards. Rainer brushes off what Connie heard, essentially telling him to shut the fuck up. We spend the rest of the day searching for the suspected breach in the wall, but even with 2 whole squads we found no evidence of it. Exhausted, we decide to recuperate in the ruins of Utgard Castle. Hey, why are there base constructions here?
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
We again ponder on the lack of evidence for any hole in the wall, and with the relatively low number of Titans within wall rows, there might be another way these Titans are getting in, but our theorizing can be put on hold while we get some much needed rest. I get a good solid 5 minutes of sleep before I am called to the roof to find the entire castle surrounded by Titans, who also apparently have insomnia, seeing the way they are active despite it being the dead of night. To add to the shock, we see some beast-looking Titan nearby that's ignoring us and going straight for the wall. Gerudo, Nanaba, and the other soldiers are ready to take them on. Does this mean I can get a few more minutes of sleep? Never mind. My role is to stop the Titans from destroying the tower and killing the cadets. Breaking from the story for now, Utgard is one of my favourite missions in the entire game. It's one of the few ones in the game that give you a sense of urgency. The tower is obviously the central point, but you have to manage your attention of it. You need to keep building bases to supply yourself and take on Titans before they can get to the tower. It's ultimately a mission revolving around managing your priorities, and you are always kept on your toes. Especially as you suddenly get a new mission objective with the arrival of projectile debris. You need to build 4 bases around the castle. However, you can't just speed on over and build it to be done with it. You need to eliminate the Titans in your way before you get the option to. And with the tower still being attacked, it adds increasing pressure that I think makes the mission very engaging and rewarding. And what could it be even more pressuring than a boss fight appearance? The Beast-Titan has said he wanted to get into the ring and immediately gets his ass handed to him and runs away like a little bitch. You know, despite everything, I think we're doing pretty well here. We just gotta keep up with this tempo and just like that, it went from bad to worse. With Nanaba and Gerudo dead, we are practically defenseless. Yeah, keep throwing rocks, Krista. Do that a few 100 times and you might scratch one of them. Go for it, girl. But she is too busy arguing with her girlfriend, talking about the promise they made. Should I give you two some room? Ymir then takes Connie's knife. You know that won't do much against those Titans. Fuck it, we ball. Me and my newly acquired best friend Ymir have decided to team up to kill off the remaining Titans, because I refuse to die without my nap. Despite my valiant efforts, Ymir, the Titan, is somehow the one who gets cornered. At this point, I don't think the tower is going to hold much longer. And no, that's not an invitation for you to... I'm definitely feeling that tomorrow. Though Ymir is definitely feeling the beatdown the surviving Titans are giving her, Krista runs to her with no regard for her own safety, wishing to tell Ymir her real name, and finds herself within arm's reach of a Titan. And now the tides are turned with the arrival of the rest of the scouts. The last half of the mission goes smoothly, eliminating the last few Titans around the castle, and embarrassingly I had to be saved by this guy. With the dust settled, Krista finally reveals her secret to Ymir. What an emotional... Oh, okay game, not the best time to do this, but alright. We now have manufacturing bases. They're like garrison bases, except instead of getting construction signals, we get random items. To be honest, don't see the point of them when supply bases do the exact same thing with all of your items. But it's the thought that counts, I guess. Back to the story, we begin to prep to move Ymir back to safety, but Hanji first instructs me to deliver word of what happened at Utgard to Eren. A bit of a filler task, but whatever Hanji wants, Hanji gets. Alright, I'm back. How's Ymir holding up? She's fine. Once we are atop the wall, we get confirmation from the garrison squad that there is indeed no breach within Wall Rose. This realization is a complete surprise to us. How could Titans even appear within Wall Rose without coming from Maria? Gosh, what else could be even more shocking than this revelation? I'm sorry, what the fuck? In a stunning turn of events, Reiner and Backpain reveal themselves to be the Armor Titan and Colossal, the very same ones involved in destroying Shiganshina. My home, my family. Below, Eren is engaging in a tense staring competition with Reiner, while we have to deal with burnt toast. The steam he's emitting pushes us away, forcing us to wait for it to periodically stop in advance, keeping cover behind these convenient bits of debris. Oh, but as a caveat to this, when the steam subsides, flying rubble constantly rains down, turning this into a very intense race to the Titan. In a really cool cutscene, we manage to slash the Colossal Snape, which somehow doesn't kill it, but I guess it can be chalked up to the blade not penetrating deep enough. In response, Brainwort starts emitting continuous steam that prevents us from attacking further, so we drop down and help Eren fight the Armored. Compared to the female, the Armored's moves are slower but hit even harder, with some similarities in their attacks. Though with the comparison, the Armored is, in my experience, a lot easier to deal with. His slower attacks with a smaller area of effect make him less difficult to fight with than the female, especially with his attention set on Eren. That's not to call fighting him boring, it's still a fun boss, just less stressful to deal with. Out of all the game's bosses, the Armored is definitely the one that puts the least amount of pressure on me. Hey, how do these guys have access to tread plates? Moving on, as Reiner rushes Eren, we get this amazing cutscene of Mikasa swinging along the wall and slicing his leg. I haven't said it before, but I'll say it here, this game has some really well done cutscenes. The camera work is just impressive. With his momentum brought to a stop, Eren cracks Reiner's back. That matters little as the Colossal decides to just succumb to gravity. Hey, I've seen this animation before. Armin informs Mikasa that unfortunately Eren and Ymir have been taken. Harness then appears to comfort the two. We then begin our discussion on what to do next, with this strong dialogue option showcasing our inner hatred for Reiner and Brainworm. It's a small reminder that, although our creator character is ultimately a blank template for the player, our motivation has always been revenge against the Armored, as he was responsible for the death of our parents. I understand why they don't lean on it too much, but I think this game would have benefited from exploring more of the protagonist's inner thoughts and motives. Owen then arrives and we devise our plan. They can't get far through Wall Mario with their current strength, so they're most likely aiming for the forest of giant trees to recuperate before continuing at night. In the meantime, we need to catch up with them and recover Eren and Ymir. Before we leave though, Harness decides to trauma dump on us, explaining how 5 years ago during the fall of Shiganshina, he failed to save Eren's mother Carla, as he was overwhelmed by the fear of the Titans. Which, to be fair, if I saw that face, I'd also run in the opposite direction. I don't need to show the rest, we know exactly how this plays out.
How could you sleep with a ginger?
Damn it, Eren, this is no time for slut-shaming.
No! Mom!
In the forest, Eren and Ymir get to enjoy a nice long discussion with Reiner and bottled waters as they can do nothing but sit around and wait. Ymir picks away at Reiner's conscience, questioning his actions. How can he kill hundreds of thousands and yet join the military in defense of those same people? Is that his way of atoning for his crime? To rid himself of the guilt? This is, as they may say, rage bait. Eren also gets his input with his colourful set of words. And Reiner replies calmly. But their chit-chat is cut short by the arrival of the scouts. Our first order of business is eliminating every time we come across while we look around for Eren and Ymir. It's pretty much a repeat of the earlier missions in the giant forest, but this is just a small segment, so not much to complain about. Harness, what are you doing? Eventually though, as we advance, we come across Ymir hanging on a tree by herself with no sign of the other three, and strangely she darts her eyes between every single one of us. And then Krista, well, Historia now, appears for a loving reunion with her girlfriend. Well, that's not ideal. The rest of the 104th departs and chases after Ymir, while I remain to handle the abnormals in the forest, which the MPs present seem very enthusiastic about. Once that is done, Owen suddenly instructs us to disengage and let the regular Titans follow us. The rest of the cast is caught up to Ymir, and finds Reiner trying to get away, with Birchwood and Eren enclosed within his palms. In this standstill, everyone gets their own words with their former comrades, Mikasa having the most touching ones of all. But Harness comes in to inform us that Eren has brought a whole horde of Titans straight to us. If you can't beat the Titans, make them someone else's problem. With that, we are so close to saving Eren, with only Ymir in our way to prevent us from getting closer. Now, if the Armored was the coughing baby, the Jaw is the hydrogen bomb. In terms of speed, she's incredibly fast, much more than the female Titan. Her moves prioritize her as she constantly jumps around and attacks relentlessly. Honestly, I'd consider the Jaw the hardest boss in the game just because of how unforgiving she is. It's tricky finding an opening to strike back. Mikasa, I know you've got a speech prepared and everything, but our commander just got his arm cut off. I think that's the bigger priority right now. Hey Armin, can you knock some sense in? I'm sorry, what? With Eren recovered, we immediately begin our retreat, as Reiner begins to hurl whole Titans through the air at us. Mikasa and Eren get knocked off their horses and come face to face with the same Titan that ate Karl Jaeger 5 years ago. Before they can share the same fate, Harness swarms in to defend them. Meanwhile, I begin to help other squads fall back and figure out where Eren and Mikasa are. It's an absolute mess as distress signals pop up left and right, but slowly we get more and more clues as to where the pair are. When we do finally find them, however, we are too late to save Harness. Titans unexplainably begin to attack Reiner, and we do not waste this opportunity. We help escort Eren to safety, which is made a tad difficult with the Titans falling from the sky. Eren again throws up his fist in anger, and even more Titans head towards Reiner, but he's able to free himself and charge right at us. We are forced to defeat Reiner here and now, but we aren't alone in this fight. Ymir joins in and slashes away, giving us extra breathing room. With Reiner off our tails and cornered by Titans, we make our break back to Wall Rose. But not everyone returns as Ymir shares a final goodbye with Historia. There's no chance to argue or complain, only precious time to retreat. Back within the walls, a recovering Erwin is briefed by Hanji with Connie, along with Pixis and Levi in attendance. They propose an unsettling hypothesis that the very Titans found within Wall Rose were the people of Ragako, Connie's village. This very suggestion implies that the Titans themselves are human. As we contemplate the possibility of this world-shattering proposition, Erwin just smiles unnervingly. Oh, you thought that was the end? Look at the remaining time in this video. You gotta listen to my annoying voice for another... how many more minutes I'll add in post. Now, for adapting season 1 and 2 into the game, this is where the original story ends, but A.O.T 2 has one final hurdle for us. But before I get to it, I want to discuss the final gameplay feature I promised however long ago. Friendship. I purposely avoided talking about it earlier as I think it deserves its own section just because of how dense it is. As explained before, your relationship with other characters is governed by a friendship system that goes from rank 1 all the way to rank 10. Your progress to each rank mainly grows by being on mission with them, whenever you invite them or they just are randomly present. At certain milestones, you even get cutscenes where you go through a character's own story and character arc, and these can go pretty deep. Now, of course, I'm not going to go through the 39 different friendships present within the game, but there are two I'd like to highlight in particular. Starting off, we have Historia. The beginning of her social link starts off with the usual, everyone and their mother falling for her. Historia reveals she feels herself to be somewhat useless at the moment, so believes that treating others can alleviate that feeling. She thus jumps at the opportunity to work at the Garrison Infirmary, a place where her popularity evidently hasn't waned with everyone wanting her attention. This leads to the main plot point for her friendship, as a little girl and her mother come to visit her father, whom we learn is likely to pass from his injuries. Historia immediately shows her compassionate side, determined to visit the little girl as much as she can, to the point of affecting her own health. The rest of her friendship has us working desperately to save the little girl's father, at one point having to venture outside the walls in order to get a medicinal plant. This whole experience has has been us seeing Hitomi for who she is. Beyond her stats, she is a kind-hearted soul, and probably sees herself within the little girl if you know her backstory. It gives much more to the character that would be slowly built in Season 2. Next on the list is Sasha. Her friendship starts off light, with us just hunting in our free time. We just have a good old time together.
本当にそうで、彼こそご先祖様に教えてもらった私たちの生き方なんや。
And that is the main focus of her friendship, not some big issue or calamity that has to be averted, just Sasha's insecurities about her natural royal accent. Her entire journey mainly just revolves around helping her come to terms with the way she speaks and dispel her self-doubts about it. To be honest, it's quite silly, but it succeeds in what friendships do best, exploring other characters and developing further beyond the show. Getting to help Sasha do something as mundane as getting confidence with speaking gives us a view into more of her backstory. While we did get to see a good chunk of her story in the show, did anyone remember the topic of her accent coming up? You learn so much more about these characters, even the ones that got the spotlight elsewhere. It's part of what makes the original player character work so well. We get to develop our own relationships with these characters, witness different sides to them, learn new things about them, and ultimately feel closer to the lovable cast of characters. And so, in my opinion, friendship is one of A.O.T 2's best features and is what makes A.O.T 2 work so well. I mean, who doesn't enjoy getting help Jean write letters to his mother? Oh, to end off the last bit of gameplay dumping, our final base of the game is upon us for this last mission, and it does not disappoint. To keep it short, attack bases increase the damage you do to Titans, but most importantly, it stacks. So build a few of these and you can do insane amounts of damage to Titans. Very fun, a very good addition to the game. But I think it's time to give crafting some of the spotlight. I disregarded it earlier, but seeing as we're coming close to the end of the game, it's about time I give it the chance. While I was quite dismissive of it, the craftable gear in the game is actually really fun. There's a long list of things you can make, ranging from just some flashy swords that mostly serve to let you cosplay as Hijikata to an electric blade that paralyzes Titans. Quite a nice variety on display. But in all seriousness, these items are really fun to use. Take the gunblade for instance. For the cost of some low durability, every single hit on a Titan produces a violent explosion. Or how about the heat blade? Because the answer to everything is arson. It's really fun to use because it continuously burns the Titan and spreads across its body, putting enough numbers on the screen in its best attempt to mimic the Matrix. Now the downside I mentioned prior is that these items do break the immersion of the game's world. In a game that's pretty faithful to the original source material, this inclusion does kind of feel quite out of place, especially on a first playthrough of the game. So if you like this game as an extension of the franchise, it's a bit jarring. But that means little when they provide as much fun as they do. It's more appropriate to treat this game as a sandbox, one for you to pick the wackiest weapons you want, and personally these gimmicky weapons do give the game its own special touch. A sort of funnier, less serious side to its identity. It's a coy hack and slash. What else is expected? A.O.T 2 is your own playground, letting you experiment with a ton of fun, wacky toys. And of course, you can optimize your build to do this. But anyway, it's about time to return back to the final part of the story. We get a return of our narrator, who mainly just recaps our position so far. That sounds ominous. Armin pulls me out of my room and we meet up with everyone to discuss what will happen next, when all of a sudden Sasha's sensor sign is off, because that's apparently her superpower. A soldier suddenly rushes to us and instructs us to prepare for combat. Titans have been spotted in Wall Rose again, heading for Wall Cena. Confirmed among them is the Beast Titan itself. If they breach the wall, it spells the end for humanity itself. All three regiments scramble to prepare our emergency line of defense. We cannot fail. I spot the advancing Titans as we stand before the district's walls with everyone. I come down to do a very important task. Pixis then decides to become plot relevant again to give us a motivational speech. That was a good one, Pixis. And so we ride off, beginning the final battle for humanity. In this fight, we are centered around our 5 defensive lines, keeping the Titans away, needing to bolster and expand them. We move to help other squads in the area, establishing more outposts, and we end up recruiting Dial of the military police to join us. It's not long, however, until rocks streak across the sky and slam into the wall's gates, flung by none other than the Beast Titan. I feel uncomfortable looking at this. If you want to have a decent shot at winning, we need to eliminate the Beast Titan and stop the flying debris. Getting Jean and Connie into my squad, we make our way to whatever you want to call that. We come to find Rico already engaging with the Beast, and together we start round 2.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? I love the young people.
He slams the ground right in front of us, but we manage to dodge. The distant artillery cannons aid us in getting him to his knees, and let us hack away at him, using every buddy action available to take him down. Now the Beast Titan has been eliminated. What the? Okay, so apparently the Beast Titan has fled, where have I seen that before, and is no longer throwing rocks, giving us some much needed breathing room and alleviating the pressure off the defenses. We move back, eliminating more Titans at the defensive line, even as a onslaught appears to replace those we've killed, but in the meantime we go and help Armin with his predicament. But even with this difficulty, we do successfully hold the line. I think we're doing pretty well right now. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. The Colossal proceeds to destroy the inner gate to Cena. It's become apparent what he's trying to do. Destroy both gates to let the Titans pour into Cena. We're forced into a dilemma, trying to hold the defensive line and halt the Colossal once and for all. As Owen states, the moment the outer gate is destroyed, humanity is lost. Right at the same time, Hitch and Marlowe send a distress signal. I quickly rescue them before we succeed in holding the Colossal. Eren rushes in to finish him off at the nape, but Levi is forced to push him away as Rhino appears and transforms. We now see what they were truly here for. They were here to retrieve Annie. Destroying the gates was merely a diversion. Owen orders Levi to pursue, but his ODM gear malfunctions, and so it's up to the rest of us to take down the armored. Oh no, yeah, we're incredibly fucked. With Levi out of the picture and Eren transformed, I can only rely on the ever-dependable Mikasa and Sasha. She'll be useful. We try our best to keep the armored confined to the wall, with Eren refusing to let up in his attacks. As we chip away at the armored's health, the Beast Titan suddenly appears again and rubble begins to rain down on us once more. At least we have Eren. We did have Eren. The armored barrels down the town road, almost reaching the outskirts before we're able to get him down for good and stop him once and for all. He's right there. I can kill him. My goal has always been to finally get revenge, to finally eradicate the one who took everything from me, but I will not throw away my comrades' lives for it. Well, this is it. See you around, you suicidal maniac. And this is where our story ends, giving up our life so the others could flee, giving up our revenge to ultimately save everyone else. It's a tragic but sweet end of our friend's journey, and we see how everyone else is coping with the loss. Jean and Komi lament their shock and despair, while Sasha counters with naive hope. Historia sits alone, staring up at the night sky. Levi as well sits in solitude, simply drinking his black tea. Hanji pleads futilely to Owen to try and rescue us. Atop the wall, Armin is joined by Eren and Mikasa, where they look to the rising sun with determination to bring back their home, to not let us die in vain. Nope, still not done. Surprise, surprise, I'm still here. Courtesy of the postgame. So in the end of this video, I think it's time to discuss some of the things added after beating the main game. Firstly, we have the return of all of our friends, including you. This gives us the chance to continue the unfinished friendships with characters that had left the story, pretty much so you aren't locked out of completing content. Characters like Reiner, Basketball, and Annie are here to continue their stories. We also get the chance to save characters who died. Simply replay the mission where they die and you have the chance to complete a special side mission to save them. After that, they'll be there for you in daily life. Speaking of those past characters, since they are back in your daily life, we also get the chance to invite them on newer scout missions, which also means transformation isn't limited to Eren anymore. We can be the Armored, Female, Jaw, and Colossal. They're all really fun and engaging to use. The Jaw in particular is really fun to use with its jumping and slashing attacks, and they all come with their own unique rages. The Colossal in particular is my favourite. See a group of Titans you don't like? Now you don't. Though we aren't the only ones who get to use these Titans. Introducing Bizarre Titans, our evil counterparts. These can spawn in on random missions and act as optional boss fights. What's new about them? This one has brown hair. Yes, they are effectively just different colored titans. But still, they let you fight these titans outside of their respective missions, so you can engage them without needing to do it in a specific mission. And them showing up randomly during a scout mission is always a fun surprise. Capturing all the different types is a nice little completionist goal if that's what you're aiming for. Now, outside of the story mode, we also get access to 2 new modes. Inferno mode is essentially just the story mode but on a higher difficulty, with dire elimination spawns that happen on each mission. Keith, the sign you need, the sign here. Inferno gives you rarer items that I need to upgrade your gear to the highest levels. Nothing too much going on, just the grinding mode really. Next is another mode, the multiplayer of A.O.T 2. Now for this one I'll truly be brief because this video is way too long already and I don't have much experience with multiplayer myself. You can either play as your own creator character or pick one from the story mode that you've unlocked. You also have basic customization for them, being able to take off or add certain clothing and change their colours. At the end of each mission you also level up these characters, like your own. Like the daily life and story mode, we have a general hub area for where we can access the features of multiplayer. We can create or search for rooms where we can play in a number of different modes. There's expected story mode missions and scouting missions, but also 4 other modes available to play. Interestingly, regarding story missions and scouting missions, you can come across nameless heroes flying around the map that you can end up recruiting. Yes, these are other player characters, but from what I've gathered, these are randomly generated characters, not ones pulled from actual players. So I guess they're just here to make you feel like you actually have friends playing with you. First is Annihilation mode. It's the simpler mode, simply being a contest of points. Each player competes to see who can accumulate the most points before the time runs out. You get points by destroying the limbs and eliminating titans that constantly spawn around the map, with the chance to get more by completing side objectives and getting chain eliminations. You can also sabotage other players in these modes as well, with items that can do things like stun your opponent. It's basic, but basic works well. It's a fun mode that complements the hack and slash component of the game. And for a completely opposite mode, we have Predator mode. Like shown before, you play as any titans you've captured in the game, with points being gained by eating civilians and destroying buildings. Only this time, the name of the game really is sabotage. You get to shove each other around with the force of a freight train. But this isn't just throwing each other around like ragdolls for the fun of it. Ow, I get it. It's also for getting Levi off your back. After a short while, you'll get countdown for Levi to instantly kill you. Hitting another player means he is transferred to them, meaning it quickly becomes a game of being the last to hit the other before the time runs out. And each death does cause you to lose points as well. And of course, Eren is here as well. Yeah, that was a close game. After that, we have Expulsion mode. It's similar to Annihilation mode, where the aim is to get as many points as possible by eliminating titans, but the twist here is you get to select among different sets of skills, each with their own stats, items, and even gear. So it's Annihilation, but with a twist to it. Gives you some special tools to kill titans. What the fuck? And the last multiplayer mode is Showdown, the most unique and complex one in my opinion. Like the others, it pits you against other players, but this one has a peculiar way of doing that. Looking at the map here, the titans here are weirdly color-coded. This is because they belong to teams. Your teams. Both teams have a general health bar that you have to reduce, and you reduce them by eliminating their team's titans. It's effectively a game of who can kill each other's titans faster. And yes, do not mind this footage where I may or may not have realized I was attacking my own titans. And of course, in each of these modes, the titan shifters will show up to add some chaos to the mix. In Annihilation and Expulsion mode, they serve as optional bosses that take longer to defeat, but reward you with more points. And in Predator mode, they target and harass you. In Showdown, they just reduce the opponent's bar by a larger amount than a regular titan. Now, multiplayer itself has 100 different mini features and whatnot, but I think you've got a rough idea of what's in store for you here. Overall, multiplayer is really well substantiated. You get a good amount of new content with fun challenges to justify sinking more time into the game after finishing the story mode, with genuine enjoyment instead of it just being some checklist. And of course, it lets you play the game with other people. That itself is a benefit. And with that, I believe we've covered most of what A.O.T 2 has to offer. Understandably, there's more to the game than just what I've shared in this video, but I think enough has been said already. To conclude this video, what are my overall thoughts on the game? I'll say, it's bloody amazing. Koei Tecmo and Megaforce did an absolutely phenomenal job in not only translating this series into a full-fledged game, but building off what Wings of Freedom brought to the table and expanding upon it. The gameplay is fantastically well done, and that's not hyperbole. The ODM gear movement is buttery smooth. Combined with the hack and slash formula, you get a gameplay system that's hyper addicting and super engaging. Now, there is some jank to it naturally, but it doesn't derail the experience. In some ways, it adds to it. In terms of world building, this game also gets an A+. The journal entries and collectibles, oh yeah, Hanji will love this. Show a lot of how this world functions and what sort of things could be found within the walls. Though this is discounting the craftable gear, since obviously they're a much more liberal and loose part of the game, but they're meant to be held apart for that reason. They don't feel like they overstep their boundaries. Going off that, we've got the game's story. Now, the events of the games themselves are not much to note, it's just a repeat of the anime story, but what stands out is the player characters themselves. As mentioned before, they're a great addition that lets us players inject ourselves into the scout regiment, but it's more than that. Firstly, it justifies the repeat of the story retold from Wings of Freedom, but secondly, it gives us different perspectives into the characters and events of the game, not only letting us interact with them from a different angle, but getting to see them from different sides. Friendship expands and gives spotlight to the big cast of interesting and lovable characters, and I absolutely love that the characters get their own touches of personality sprinkled in. And again, I can say more here, but I think you truly get the point. A.O.T 2 is just a game jam-packed with all this content and little details that let you ramble on about them for hours. I had a blast with this experience, and I don't think anything else could really replicate it. It's something only achievable with Attack on Titan setting and done by the talented hands of Koei Tecmo. I truly believe A.O.T 2 is a game any fan of the franchise should pick up to experience more of Attack on Titan. And even if you know little about the series, I still implore you to go out and try it yourself. There's nothing quite like it. On a final note, I want to thank the countless members of the Attack on Titan gaming Discord server who were vital in the researching and creation of this video. Without their knowledge and input, this video wouldn't have been possible. An invite to the server is done in the description below for those wishing to join. With all that out of the way, thank you for making it to the end of this video. This video was a massive undertaking, so subscribing would be a massive help. Your continued patronage is much appreciated. Now, where is A.O.T 3, Koei Tecmo?